Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 9 of the Best Day Ever podcast. This is a podcast about all things crafty and a glimpse into my crafting journey, but it is also where we celebrate with you why every day spent crafting makes for the best day ever. My name is Trish, and I can be found on Instagram and Ravelry as Tie Dye Diva. Show notes can be found in two locations, in the Ravelry group as well as on my blog space, which is tiedyedivacrafts.blogspot.com, and I will be sure to link to both locations in the description box below. Today is Sunday afternoon, and I believe it is the 23rd of the month. You would think that by now I would get used to checking what the date is, but I'm just excited that I was able to actually tell you what the day is today. It is a really dreary, overcast day today. We have not seen the sun at all, and I'm not sure where that's coming from. But I decided to record in a different location in my craft room, so that I can soak up what little bit of light is coming from my craft room window. So I hope that you enjoyed today's podcast, and I hope that the lighting is okay. I had hoped to record much sooner than today, but as many of you know, I had a major surgery back in August, and recovery proved to be much more challenging than I had expected. As a matter of fact, I actually had a setback in recovery and had to go back into the hospital for another procedure, which I'm pretty certain has delayed my recovery. But I am very happy to announce that I do believe that I am on the mend, and I have come a long way and still have a ways to go. But yes, I'm feeling much better and very excited that I feel well enough to be able to record today. So in today's episode, we will have the usual segments, some works in progress. I have a one-half finished object I want to share with you. And I have some dream knitting that I like to share with you. I've, sitting around the house all day, watching television and browsing the patterns on Ravelry. So of course I've seen loads and loads of things I'd like to knit and crochet. And I've also discovered a new craft, a new to me craft, I should say, that I'm very, very excited about. So I will be sharing that with you. And let's see what else. Oh, I also have something new that I'm listening to that I've really, really been enjoying. So I'm hoping that it's something that will interest you as well. So without further delay, let's get into it. I want to announce the winner for the prize drawing for the month of August. If you are new to the podcast, first of all, welcome. And I want to let you know that you should go over and not subscribe, but join the Ravelry group, because there is where you'll be able to share your best day ever moments as it relates to crafting. Just share with us anything you're excited about on your crafting journey. And I will draw a prize once a month by random number generator. And yeah, that's it. It's as simple as that. The July winner finally got in contact with me, so I will be getting her prize out this week. And I have decided not to do a drawing for the month of September, just because, just to make things simpler. There's been so much going on with recovery and just trying to get myself back into a routine. So we'll do without September's drawing and move on into October. So just to remind the August winner of what they're going to win, this beautiful project bag that I picked up from Hobby Lobby. I thought it was so cute. And it's got the little hole in the middle for guiding the yarn through. And this beautiful skein of Miss Babs. So this base is the Yummy 2-ply. It's 100% superwash merino, 400 yards, and the color is, hold on, graffiti. So we did a random number generator out of 18 entries, and the winner for the month of August was number 4, which is Kimmy, and she spells her name Kyme. I believe that's how you pronounce that. Kimmy said that her best day ever moment was finishing the Getting Warmer cowl for a friend. I love that pattern. It is in my queue. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the pattern by the Espostrico ladies in Canada. It's a beautiful, squishy, just delightful cowl. So, Kimmy, congratulations for finishing your project. And thank you so much for sharing with us what you're excited about in your crafting journey. Okay, so our prize drawing for the month of October will be something you've already seen before. I believe I shared this with you. This beautiful project bag. This was made by Melody Crochet. It's her name on Ravelry. And you see it's beautifully lined. She's got her name and logo on the inside. It also has a pocket on the inside, the same color. It's got a removable fob here on the side, which also doubles as a handle, which is nice for knitting on the go. And it's absolutely beautiful. It's done in a very fallish African motif, which I think is absolutely beautiful. I'm looking at my camera, making sure we're actually recording. And I'm also going to include this beautiful skein of Plucky Knitter Traveler Aran. And the color is Triple Crown. It's very similar to the color that I did my Dog Walker sweater in. And that was actually the yarn that I had left over from that sweater ended up going into the August giveaway. But this is Triple Crown. Absolutely beautiful. I think that the two of these make the perfect fall package. Speaking of which, I think today is actually the first day of fall. So it's definitely time to get those needles and sewing machines cranking so that we can work on our fall wardrobe. So yes, please make sure you head over to the Ravelry group, join the group. I will open up a thread for the month of October, and this again will be the prize. So the maker of the prize drawing for the month of October is Melody, and her Ravelry name is Melody Stitches. And Melody has generously offered not just the prize for the month of October, but also a discount code for viewers of the Best Day Ever podcast. The code is, I believe, yes, I'm sorry. The code is BDE30. So all caps BDE30. Head over to Melody's Etsy shop, which is Melody's Needle Notes, and I will of course make sure I link to that. You can also go to the Ravelry group because there is a thread in which she announces the discount code as well as links to her shop. So Melody, thank you so much again for sponsoring a prize for the month of October. If you are a maker and you would like to sponsor a prize for a month on the podcast, just send me a message on Ravelry or either on Instagram, or you can also send me an email. I believe I'm linked somewhere on the YouTube channel, and let me know if you'd like to sponsor a prize for the giveaway. Okay, so I think that's it for all the business things I need to cover. Let me just double check. Yes, I believe so. So let's get into what I've been working on. The first thing I want to show you is something I don't think I have showed you before. It's a pair of socks that I'm working on for my husband, for Ray. And these socks are hanging out in a bag that was gifted to me by Kalisha, who is the host of the Quirky Monday podcast. And if Kalisha has an Etsy shop or some other online presence, I will definitely link to her shop in the show notes. But I love this bag, and it's the perfect match for the socks I'm making for Ray. It basically has all of the planets on it, represented, and again in beautiful fallish colors. So I'm considering this a half finished object, even though I still have to put the afterthought heel in, but the sock is actually made up. So here we go. If you've ever knit man socks before, you know that they take forever. So here's this long tube, and I do have a contrasting heel, a contrasting toe, and a contrasting cuff, and this color will also be for the heel. And I've got my marker here where the heel placement is going to go. I will be doing a true afterthought heel, which basically means I'm just going to pick up the stitches. I haven't put waste yarn or anything in here. I will try to remember to link to a couple of my favorite tutorials for afterthought heels. Afterthought heels are pretty much my go-to, but there are several others I would like to try, but for now afterthought heels are my jam, I guess you could say. So the yarn was dyed by the incredible Lisa of Fiber Nymph Dye Works, who also has a podcast. And just look at those colors. The name of this color is Don't Tell Him It's a Rainbow. And so it's a very manly rainbow. But I don't know if you could tell just how geniusly this was dyed. So from afar off, this might look like one whole stripe from here to here, but these are actually two different colors that gradiate into one another. Same thing with the green. You can see the separation a little bit better, but I still think it has a beautiful gradient effect. And the same thing with the blue, the bluish purple. I love the way that it gradiates into one another. This is a sport weight yarn, and I believe it's, I think I've got the tag right in my bag. Hold on. So the base is Traveler. It's an 80-20 superwash merino nylon blend, and it is 328 yards, and it is a sport weight. And so because it is a sport weight, this sock pretty much flew off of the needles. It's so squishy and bouncy. I believe I did 60 stitches for Ray. Normally I do 56 stitches using a US size 2, but since this was a sport weight, I went down a needle size, maybe a half needle size. I believe I'm working these, I don't have to guess, I have it right here. I'm working these on a US 1.5. Yes, a US 1.5, 2.5 millimeter. And this is the second sock on my Zing needles by Knit Pro. And I absolutely love these needles. I've talked about them so many times. Just wonderful, smooth, pointy, and they're really pretty too. And they're lightweight, so they're very easy to maneuver. The cording is perfect, so love, love, love these needles. And here's the progress on the second sock. As you can see, I did start them from the top down. So hopefully, maybe on the next recording, I will have a completed pair of socks. And the contrast color that I'm using, I did not want to have to go out and purchase a skein of sport weight to finish these socks up. So I was really happy to find this in my stash. This is Malabrigo Arroyo, and the color, let's see, the color is Regatta Blue. I had this left over from a hat that I made a while ago, and I cannot think of the name, and I don't think I wrote it down. the contemporary hat. If I remember, I'll insert a picture here. But the contemporary hat was a hat by Vera Valimaki, and I really enjoyed working on that hat. So, yeah, so glad I had this left over for my heel, toe, and cuff. And I think that's about all I can say about those socks, but I'm really enjoying it. It's my go-to pattern when I'm at doctor's appointments, and which have been many these past few weeks. So I just take those with me, and that's how those are getting knit. So very excited about those. Next up, I'm going to show you the progress that I've made on my cherry sweater. And you've seen this project bag before. This is the Finch bucket bag that I made by Stitch Mischief. She's the one who designed this beautiful bag. She also has them for sale. When you can catch them, she seems to be doing quite well with her online shop. She's been doing sellouts, but I will link to her in the pattern in the show notes. Okay, so this is my cherry sweater by Midori Hirose. Her last name is spelled Hirose. So I almost want to say Hirose, but Hirose, I believe it is. Midori Hirose. So it is a top-down sweater, and you knit this. It's not quite a turtleneck because I believe it only stops right here. But as you can see, it's got these really dramatic drop raglan sleeves. I have already separated for the body, and I've got quite a bit done on the body of the sweater. I separated for the sleeves is what I should have said. I haven't decided if I want the sleeves to be short sleeve, if I want them to be like kimono wide sleeves, or if I want them to be wide and then gathered for an elbow sleeve. Have not decided that yet, but I have plenty of yarn to do. I'm looking at my stash and the rest of my yarn over there. So I have plenty of yarn to do whichever sleeve I decide to do, but this has been quite an enjoyable knit. So the very top neckline, I decided to do this in a plucky sweater, and I held that together with a drops merino silk. So let me show you what these look like. So here's my plucky sweater, and I believe this was a one-hit wonder color, so it doesn't have a name, but it's a beautiful icy gray color. And here's my kid silk that I stranded or held together with it, and this is by Drops. This is Drops kid silk. It's so pretty, and I absolutely love the price point on it. I want to talk a little bit more about this yarn, and when we talk about acquisitions towards the end. So that's what I did for the top of the sweater, only because the mohair that I use for the body of the sweater is a bit scratchy, and I'm okay with mohair, but for my neck area, I wanted it to be as comfortable as possible. My little dots or cherries was knit with this collarette mohair. I didn't put the composition of the yarn in here, but I'm almost certain that it is a mohair and nylon blend, but it's absolutely beautifully dyed. I'm gonna of course link to it and put the color. I think it's Sunset Beach or something beach, but I can't quite remember the name. It is a discontinued base, but absolutely beautiful. And believe it or not, you can actually see the variation of color in the dots. So that's really, really fun. And I think it's so pretty. Now the body of the sweater is knit in what is called ELLE Mohair 2000, which is a bulky weight yarn. And let me try to get this closer to the camera so you can see how beautiful the halo is on this. And even though this is a bulky weight yarn, this sweater is still so light and so fluffy. So this could possibly be a contender for my one of my Rhinebeck sweaters. I am planning on going to Rhinebeck. My travel partner, I told her, you know, when I found out I had to have surgery, she was like, oh, are you still going to be able to go to Rhinebeck? I was like, oh, yes, I am going to Rhinebeck. I might be moving slower than usual, but I definitely hope to be there. So, yep, I'm just about done with the body of this. I'm going to try this on in the next couple of days so that I can know how long I want this to be. I don't know if I'm going for a cropped or more of a tunic style, but I will make up my mind very soon because I'm anxious to get this off of the needles because, oh my goodness, I have cast on fever. So many things I want to knit, but the thought of having 2 sweaters on the needles at one time is a bit much, at least for me. So yes, I'm very, very anxious to get this done. That sweater is also being knit on Zing needles, which is a US 10, I believe. Yep, a US 10 needle for the cherry sweater. Let's see if there's anything else I need to mention about that. No, I think we're all good. I am prepared today. I actually have show notes written in this beautiful little notebook that was gifted to me. All right. Let's move on into my final whip in knitting. Yep, I believe I just have one more to share with you. And that's hanging out in this beautiful bag from Amy Beth of Fat Squirrel Fibers. And this pattern is called A Girl's Best Friend by Isabel Kramer. Now, I believe this is my very first Isabel Kramer pattern, and it definitely will not be my last. So let's see if you can get a feel for what this pattern looks like if I just show you the picture. Yeah, so it is a top-down triangular shaped shawl with loads and loads of texture. It is written to be knit in 3 colors, but it could certainly be done in a solid color if you wanted to. This is one of the projects that I knew I wanted to knit while I was home recuperating from surgery. I was thinking about something really colorful and that would be fun but not too complicated to knit, and something that would I wanted to choose something that was where the colors would lift my spirits. And so let me show you what colors I chose for my Girl's Best Friend. Let me make sure I'm showing you the right side. So here we go. Hold on. Let's see. I'm hope that I can. I'm not looking at the camera, so I'm hoping that I'm doing this shawl justice so you can actually see the progress I've made. I cast this on probably maybe 2.5 weeks after surgery, I believe I did. The colors that I'm using, the pink is Pink Champagne on Ice in the Plucky Bellow base. This color here, the tan speckled, is Great Outdoors, and the green is Lounge Lizard. and all three of them are on the bellow base, which is a 55% merino, 45% cashmere blend, which equates to just pure luxury. It is so soft and so bouncy and squishy, and I don't know if you can see the halo that is on the bellow base, and I'm also hoping you can see the beautiful texture on this shawl. So you start out with these textured ridges, and then you got a little bit of the contrast color coming in, and then you go into this beautiful, amazingly fun lace like teardrop section, and there's another little section there which is just stockinette, some stockinette stitch, and then a larger section of that teardrop lace, and then this section here was amazingly fun. The baubles that span the entire width of the shawl, and I'm getting down to the final stretch of the pattern, which is this beautiful rib, which is done in the green. I have thoroughly enjoyed knitting this shawl. I'm already thinking about making another one. I am using, the needles that I'm using are from a company called Diet Craft. I will link to them. This particular set was called, I think they call them Darn Pretty needles. They are 100% handmade, made with turned wood, and I don't know the type of wood that it is, but Diet Craft, they're an amazing husband and wife team in the state of Vermont, and they are still making needles. I do believe they have a backlog on their wooden needles, but they have other needles with other compositions. But I absolutely love these. They are so slick and so smooth. They were worth every dime that I paid for them. It was quite a considered purchase, I will say that, but it was an investment in my crafting, and I'm so glad that I made that investment. I really enjoyed working with them, and I've got my Sucra miniatures little charm here. It's not a charm, it is a progress keeper. So this is my teacup, and can you see the little bits of let me turn this lighting down. Maybe if I turn it down just a little, you'll be able to see a little bit better. Yeah, that's better. So it's a little teacup and little sugar cubes on the side by Sucra Miniatures. Absolutely love that. Okay, so by the next time I record, this will probably be finished. I'm going to give it a nice hard wet block so that I will be able to hopefully wrap it completely around my shoulders. There's one more glimpse of the pattern. Nothing but good things to say about it. Well written, just absolutely enjoyable, and highly recommended, as well as the yarn. The Plucky Bellow base is just amazing. While I'm talking about the yarn, I want to make something clear that I think, so the prize for the month of September, just so that you know, it is, I'm sorry, the prize for the month of October, the Plucky Skein, just so you know, it is not in any way sponsored by the Plucky Knitter. It is sponsored by my stash. So just wanted to throw that out there just in case you were actually wondering about that. So I think that's all I have to share with you in knitting. So let me get a couple of sips of tea while I talk to you about a new to me craft that I'm really excited about. And today I'm having a cup of vanilla chai spice tea. with just a little bit of raw sugar in it. Well, maybe a lot. It's so good. And it's hanging out in my best day ever coffee mug. And there's a little sunshine there. So, so good. Nothing as soothing as a hot cup of tea on a cloudy, rainy, chilly day, which is what we have in the DMV today. So the new to me craft that I am so excited about is needlework. So I had not ever done any type of embroidery, cross stitch, or needlepoint ever. And I can't even remember how or who it was. I was probably watching someone's podcast and they were working on some cross stitch or needlepoint. And so I was at Walmart one day and I picked up a couple of these very inexpensive cross stitch kits from a company called Dimensions. I'm pretty sure you've seen them before. I think Joanne sells them also. And so they were just hanging out in my craft room. And then I believe I was watching Rachel of Treehouse Knits several months ago. She was working on some needlepoint or cross stitch or embroidery. I didn't even know the difference between them. I had to do some research to figure out what it was. So it just reminded me to, pick up my little kits I'd purchased from Walmart and to give them a try. So I did a few months back, and then I kind of lost interest, just wasn't really enjoying it, but I knew I wanted to at least finish it because it was just such a little small project. Well, I was watching Rachel of Treehouse Knits a couple of weeks ago, and she had finished this beautiful, I still don't know if it was needlepoint or cross stitch, but it was some type of needlework project. And it just reminded me that I needed to get back to my project. So I completed my very first cross stitch project, and here it is. I hope that's showing through, and I hope it looks like what it's supposed to be, which is a cupcake. As I was filling it in, and I was so excited because it looked like a cupcake to me, but I wasn't sure. So I asked my family, what does this look like to you? And everybody agreed that it looked like a cupcake. So I will consider that a win. It is by no means perfect, and that's perfectly okay. One thing about cross stitch is that to get the best effect, you always want your crosses to be going in the same direction. And in this particular one, you can see where the stitches are really kind of bunched up there. I definitely got off track. But the overall project is really, really, it's so sweet. It's adorable, and I really enjoyed making it, and I think I'm kind of hooked. So it's going to go in my kitchen. I'm going to either frame it or cut the excess cloth off and just hang it somewhere in my kitchen. So really, really enjoyed the cross stitch. The only thing I did not enjoy about the cross stitch is that I found it to be very difficult on my eyes. I don't know if I need to get a stronger prescription, or maybe if I just got another pair of reading glasses that were a bit stronger. But yeah, there was something else that wasn't my favorite part about it, is that you are so regimented and stuck, and you had to stick to a particular pattern. And I believe this was counter cross stitch, which meant that you have to actually count across each of the blocks in the cloth. And I don't know whether you can see, yeah, you can see these tiny blocks, each block which would represent a stitch. And if you deviate from that, you can easily get back on track. But I was just thinking, man, it would be so nice if I could figure out a way to make this more freeform. So I put it away for a couple of days, and then I was on Instagram one day, and I happened to come across someone who I've been following for quite some time, and her name is Wild Boho on Instagram, and she was doing some, what I found out later to be, embroidery stitches onto pre-printed fabrics. And there was just something about that that was so appealing to me, besides the fact that they were absolutely beautiful. But just the ability to take a fabric you've purchased, you purchased it because it was beautiful, so a floral print or even a very subdued print, and the possibility of using embroidery stitches to either around the edgings of the prints of the fabrics or filling in the prints of the fabrics and making those fabrics pop. There was something so appealing to me about that. And it just so happened at the same time she had put out a new book, which really encouraged you to really think outside the box when it comes to embroidery. And I have to say that I'm really not drawn to the more traditional embroidery patterns. My decor is like an Afro-Caribbean decor, and so they really wouldn't have much of a place in my home decor. But the possibility of taking fabrics I already have and embellishing them with cross stitch and embroidery patterns, yes, I really got excited about that prospect. So I went and purchased the book, and this is the book here. It's called Boho Embroidery, the Pattern Collection, over 20 modern motifs and 20 traditional stitches. And I just want to read one paragraph to you. When I read this, I was like, I knew this is for me. And she says, Boho is back. And it says, this follow-up to Boho Embroidery, modern projects from traditional stitches, will take your stitching further, and you have exploring textures both in the stitches you create and the materials you use. I encourage you to think beyond your typical embroidery thread and pre-printed patterns, and expand your repertoire with new stitches, a variety of threads, and adaptable patterns. So again, that is what was so appealing to me, that I could take some of these fabrics that I have here, there, and everywhere else in this craft room, and the possibility of making them even more beautiful. I just absolutely love that. Let me see if I can find a couple of patterns where she actually did that. Okay, so here is an example of a beautiful print, but she just stitches what looks like a little girl in a little tutu and ballerina shoes right onto the fabric. And how beautiful would that be in a little girl's room? Let's see if I can find something else. Also thought this was pretty. This is a beautiful yellow and white fabric, and she just put some embroidered some it looks also as if she cut out the print of a bird and did some embroidery that makes it look like they're sitting on a wire. And then there's even some embellishments on the birds with needle thread and beads. So that's really fun. Let's see what else. I want to find a picture in which the fabric is already printed and she did some embellishments to the actual print that is on. Okay, so here's an example of another print. I believe this is a floral print. You look at that floral print, and there you can see how she's actually embellished some of the prints in that fabric and really make them pop. And then of course you can come up with your own embroidery onto some traditional embroidery fabric like a canvas or a muslin, which is also absolutely beautiful. So I was thinking I could take a denim jacket and do some practice with some embroidery stitches. A top that I sew, I could actually do some embroidery on the fabric before or even after I sew it. The possibility of using some of my stash, my yarn and my fabric in a new way is just so exciting to me. So I'm going to continue to, devour this book, and hopefully I will have something to show you the next time I record. The first thing I'm going to do is start out with a sampler. I'm just going to take some fabric and I'm going to hoop it up on one of my hoops that I purchased from Michaels. So this is a 3-piece set that I purchased from Michaels. I think this was about $10, and I had a 50% off coupon. I'm not sure if you heard my husband just sneeze. So yeah, this was, I think, a really good investment. And that doesn't mean I will probably never use a pre-printed pattern to embroider or cross stitch, because there are also quite a few patterns in the book also. But I do like the idea of embellishing fabrics that I already have. Oh, this is beautiful. Look at those leaves. That reminds me of a Rifle Paper Company motif. So, Boho Embroidery by Nicole Volchelsinger. I was actually able to have a really nice Instagram convo back and forth with her. And so, because I was wondering about, as a new embroiderer, as a new cross stitcher, would I be able to follow along in the book? And she gave me a lot of encouragement and a lot of ideas to think about as I'm getting started in this new craft. So super excited about that. And I also picked up some of these little itty bitty little hoops for embroidery. So this is nice when you're starting out for the smaller projects. So let's get into a few acquisitions and a little bit of dream knitting. Okay, so as I mentioned, because I've been home recovering, that's given me a lot of time to browse Ravelry, and there have been some really exciting patterns that have come out since I've been home in recovery. So I'll just share with you the one that has got me super excited. It is the Ingalls cardigan by Caitlin Hunter. As you can see, it is an oversized top-down sweater with a beautiful yet simple colorwork motif at the yoke. And you can see, this is my first time actually noticing that there is actually a little bit of lace patterning that flanks both sides of the motif on the yoke. Long sleeves, and again, as you can see, it's oversized and looks like it has some ribbing at the bottom. So if you are a Little House on the Prairie fan like I have loved that television show since I was a little girl, and I've actually been kind of binge watching it since I've been home. So it was really right on time that this pattern came out, right about the time that I discovered that I could watch Little House on the Prairie reruns. So I haven't decided which yarn I'm going to use to knit this, but this would definitely be one of the next sweaters on my needles. I am absolutely in love with this sweater, not just because of the style and the design, but because it is indeed inspired by Little House on the Prairie. I would also love to make me a project bag. something that's inspired by Little House on the Prairie. There are several fabric lines with Little House on the Prairie motifs, but I need more fabric, like I need a hole in my head. Not that it won't stop me from buying more, but we'll see. So the next pattern, Dream Knitting, I like to share with you is by Church Mouse Yarns, which is called the Church Mouse Classics Modern Wrapper. Let's see here. So this is a one-size-fits-all boxy, oversized shawl-like cardigan with drop sleeves. It just looks so cozy and like it would be so much fun to knit. Another thing that appeals to me about this is that it is knit holding 2 yarns together and using larger needles. So it calls for a US 9 and a US 10 needle. US 10 for the body of the sweater, so it should go really fast, even though, as you can see, it's a pretty large voluminous sweater. And I love stranding my yarns together, because not only is it great for stash busting, but it's also it's so nice to be able to create new fabric when knitting, just by combining 2 different yarns together. So the yarn that I chose is this beautiful color of Loft by Brooklyn Tweed, and the color is Old World. So the best way I can describe this is a purpley, a really dark purplish blue. And as you can see, it's got some beautiful speckles of red and green and blue. And I'm going to, with this, I'm going to hold it together with this beautiful kid silk from Drops. And I think when I ordered this, I think the color just said purple, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't think I'm going to do a swatch for this. I'm going to live dangerously. It is, like I said, a one size fits all shawl. That's like a shawl type cardigan. But yeah, so these are the 2 colors, and I think they're going to be beautiful stranded together. And I'm really excited to cast on for that very soon. I already had several skeins of this in my stash, and I only needed 1 more to make sure I had enough to complete the pattern. And I was able to order just 1 skein from Wool and Company, which is a online yarn company I've talked about so many times. Their shipping is free no matter how much or how little you order, which I think is fantastic, because sometimes you are working on that project and you do need just that 1 skein, and you do kind of hate to pay full price shipping for just 1 thing. So the fact that they include the shipping, or that shipping is free, is just fantastic, and the shipping is super fast. So kudos to Wool and Company. Thank you so much for getting this to me so quickly so that I can start my sweater. And the Drops Kid Silk Haze, I believe I ordered this from Deramores. Yes, I ordered this from Deramores. And this is, I believe the Drops Kid Silk is a company in the UK. And so if I would have ordered it from the UK, I would have paid a lot of money in shipping. So I was able to get it from Deramores, and they also shipped it to me very quickly. And I believe I ordered 8 skeins of this to be able to complete the Church Mouse Modern Wrapper. I think that's all I have to say about that. A couple of other acquisitions is this beautiful skein here. And I hope that the light picks up the color really good. So this is from a new to me, there we go, a new to me dyer called Lavender Loom Yarn Company, and I actually got this in one of the swap groups I'm in on Ravelry. When I saw someone offering it up, I knew for sure that I wanted to get it because I've heard so many good things about Lavender Loom. And I was actually watching an interview that she did with Christy Glassnit. So just search for that on YouTube if you'd like to know more about Lavender Loom. But she is definitely a indie dyer who is growing in popularity, and this will probably end up being a pair of socks for me. It's absolutely beautiful. Oh, the colorway is Hearthside. It's 463 yards, and it's a 75-25 superwash merino nylon blend, and of course it's a fingering weight. So absolutely beautiful, and I see what all of the excitement is. It's beautiful, beautifully speckled, very interesting, very, very pretty. Let's see here. I've got a couple more skeins that came in the mail. This is another skein of Traveler Sport, the same yarn that I am making raised socks out of, from Fiber Nymph Dye Works. And look at that gorgeous striper there. Purples and my beloved oranges and dark gray and black. So this is a 5 striper, and the color is called the Darker Side of Pie. And she put a little note in here to let you know exactly where to start in the pattern so that the socks will be knit the way it was intentionally dyed. So pretty. I couldn't resist this. Lisa was actually having a sale, and I'm not sure if that sale is still on, a moving sale. I believe she was moving her inventory to another location. So she was trying to clear out some inventory, and all of the yarns were 25% off. No, actually 30% off, because the code was moving 30. And as you can see, the price point on this was already really, really good. That's not gonna show up. So 25 bucks for her Traveler base. I couldn't resist picking up another skein. So thank you for that, Lisa. And I also took advantage of the sale and picked up this beautiful self-striping color. Look at that. I love this one because it's stripes and speckles. And it's the 3-color striper, which I believe will be the white, the gray, and the speckles. And the color of this is Hypotheses. This base is a 80-10-10, which is a merino cashmere nylon base. I don't think I've ever knit me a pair of socks with any cashmere in them, so this will be my first pair at some point. I have here lately been looking for lighter color stripers. I have been watching the Earth Tones Girl podcast, and whenever she knits a pair of socks, it's just like every color she knits I want, because it's her choices in the self-striping colors that she chooses are just amazing. And earth tones, I'm assuming, is what she really, really likes. And not just the earth tones, but the lighter earth tones, which usually in self-striping, they're more vibrant and bright. As a matter of fact, this is my, that's my hand spun there. This is my stash of self-striping yarns right here. And as you can see, they are darker. Usually they tend to be darker and brighter. So it's nice when you're able to find a lighter self-striper. It's a surprising find. So I think these are going to be beautiful when they get all knit up. Okay, so I think that's all I have to share with you today as far as crafting. I haven't done any sewing since I've been home for the past 4 weeks or so. Still not comfortable enough to like sit up in a position for a really, really long time, or definitely not to be standing over a cutting board and cutting out fabric. But that will come in time, I'm sure. So one last thing I want to share with you is what I've been listening to. It's a new to me audio podcast. And I think on the last episode, we talked about health issues, and unfortunately, I've found myself as I've gotten older with some health issues I'd rather not be dealing with. But at the same time, it's really been a wake up call to me, and it's caused me to think about ways to better care for myself. And so I've been thinking about diet changes and just many different things that I can do to help improve my health situation. And so a good friend of mine who's also my neighbor, Mike, who is, you can follow him on Instagram. He's known as News to DC. I will link to it in the show notes and just below here. So we like to cook together, and he has also made some changes in his diet in the past few months, as he's moving to more of a plant-based diet, because we all know we can use more fruits and vegetables. So the name of the podcast that I've been listening to is called The Jealous Vegan. And when you go to iTunes to look at the podcast or to listen to the podcast, one thing that might strike you is the picture that they use for their podcast, which is this beautifully cooked pork chop. And I think it has a piece of rosemary on it. So you may be wondering, why would they use a picture of a pork chop with a piece of rosemary on it? Well, it's because, as they mentioned in one of their podcast episodes, is that none of them are strictly vegetarians or vegan, or not. They're not just so gung-ho anti-meat, anti-dairy. But it's all about making as many good choices as you can throughout the day, throughout the weeks, throughout the months, throughout your lifetime, in an effort to become as healthy as possible. And for some people, and they will be very frank with you on the podcast about where they've slipped up and where they've eaten meat, but they're also very passionate about sharing the positive changes that have come to them by changing their eating habits. And so, as I have taken a new health journey, I have decided to cut out certain foods from my diet just to see how my body responds to it. So for now, I'm not eating beef, chicken, or pork. I'm still eating fish and eggs and dairy in limited amounts, just to see how my body responds to it. And we'll just see. I think I'm definitely not at the point where I can say I want to become a vegetarian or I want to become a vegan, but I'm definitely at the point where I know I want to include a lot more fruits and vegetables in my diet, to learn more delicious ways of enjoying our fruits and our vegetables, and the possibilities are endless with that. And so, again, follow The Jealous Vegan on Instagram and listen to their podcast. If you are, it's not just for vegetarians, it's not just for vegans, it's really for people who are just interested in thinking about ways to improve their health by moving more to a plant-based diet. I really, really, really enjoy their content. And let me make sure, I'm going to take a brief look at my show notes to make sure that I'm not missing anything else. No, so I do believe that's it. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of your time with me today. I'm so happy that I was able to record today. Um, yeah, I'm just happy to be back. And thank you for your patience. Thank you for continuing to watch. Again, if you're a new watcher, a new viewer, thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoy what you saw today, then please give it a thumbs up. Hit your subscribe button so you'll be notified when I record again, which I hope will be much sooner than this last break that I took. Thank you all also for all of the well wishes and just so many words of encouragement as I was on the mend. Thank you so much. I received so many cards and so many wonderful, thoughtful gifts from family and friends. And so while I would have rather not had to deal with everything I've dealt with for the past 4 weeks, I was so blessed to have had and continuing to have tons of encouragement and support along the way. And I will share with you one funny thing as I was recovering. Unfortunately, like I mentioned in the outset, I had a slight setback and I had to go back into the hospital and have another procedure. And I just remember waking up one Saturday morning and it was a good day. Everything was going good until it wasn't going good anymore. And I started having severe pain. And I just went in and called me, told my husband, sweetie, I need to go to the ER. Something is wrong. I still had my pajamas on. I took off my slippers and I put my flip-flops on. I think I had a scarf over my head. I was probably looking a hot mess, but I didn't care. I knew I needed my insurance card and my ID, so I grabbed my knitting bag. The very first thing I thought, I gotta take my knitting because I had a feeling I wasn't coming home. I grabbed my knitting bag, which had, this is the knitting bag I took. I threw my advance directive in there, I threw my ID in there, and I threw my insurance card in there, and I was like, let's go. So while I was there for about 4 days, and I had to I had my knitting. I knew I didn't fill up to knitting. I just couldn't. I was so drugged up with pain medicine and just exhausted. Sometimes I would just hold my bag in my lap. My husband had went home to pack me a bag, and the same bag I had at my earlier hospital stay, which had a shawl in it that I had knit. I believe it was my Hohi Locatelli shawl. I can't think of the name of it. Anyway, I was hot. I went from hot to cold. Temperature was all out of whack, but when I was cold, I would tell my husband, give me my shawl. I wanted my shawl. I just wanted something that I had made around me or near me. And when I was hot, I'd take it off and I'd put it at the edge of my bed. And of course, the nurses would come in and they would ask me about my knitting, but it was just so comforting to know that I had it there. And I think my husband took a picture of me wrapped up in this shawl and my hospital gown. I don't know, vanity might win, and I might not put the picture in here. But as I was sitting there in that situation, I could not help but think again, and I say this all the time, and it's actually the reason why I decided to start this podcast, how blessed we are to have a craft that carries us through the difficult times. Like I said, I wasn't able to knit, but just knowing that I had it there with me. In my earlier hospital stay, I also had these socks with me. And again, I was too weak and too drugged up to knit. I may have knit maybe a half a row here, a half a row there, but just knowing I had it there just brought me so much solace. In the days to come after coming out of the hospital and feeling a little better, just being able to sit and knit, it was nice. It was really, really nice. So I say all that to say the way I end every single podcast episode, just to remind us that crafting is more than just a functional thing to do. It can be a lifesaver in a lot of ways. And if you've ever been through a crisis while crafting, then you know that to be true. So I think I'm finished rambling. Again, thank you for joining me today. And never, ever forget that every second spent crafting always makes for the best day ever. Thank you and bye bye.